I want you to think about your grandmother, or your grandfather, or that aunt who's still sharp at 92, still telling stories at Sunday dinner. Here's something most people never stop to consider. People are living longer than any generation before them. A 65-year-old today has a very real chance of living to 85, 90, even beyond. Medical advances are adding years to lives faster than most financial plans account for. That means your retirement isn't a 10-year chapter. For many of you watching this, it is a 20, 25, even 30-year chapter. Read that again. 30 years. That's longer than some of your careers. So today, I want to ask you a harder question than how much do you need to retire? I want to ask, how long does your money actually need to last? Because those are two very different questions, and only one of them is usually being asked. Stay with me. This one changes how you see everything else. Here's the mistake almost everyone makes, without even realizing it. They think of retirement planning as a math problem. How much money do I need? But the real question underneath that is a timeline question. How long will I need this money to last? And most people, even careful, responsible people, quietly plan as if retirement will only last 10 or 12 years. It's not that they're doing the math wrong. It's that they're doing math for the wrong length of time. Inflation doesn't stop when you retire. Healthcare costs don't stop. Taxes don't stop. The bills don't care that you've stopped working. If you're 55 today and you retire at 65, you may need your money to last until you're 90. That's 25 years of funding a life with zero new income coming in. Is your plan built for that? Or did you plan for the version of the future that simply feels comfortable to imagine? Let's make this practical. Here's a simple exercise. Take your current age. Now, rather than guessing at your own life expectancy, plan around a conservative, generous number. Let's say age 90 to 95. Not because you'll necessarily live that long, but because planning for it costs you very little if you don't, and running out costs you everything if you do. If you're 60 now and you plan to age 92, that's 32 years your money may need to stretch across. Now here's the shift in thinking that changes everything. A 10-year plan and a 30-year plan are not the same plan with different numbers. They require fundamentally different strategies. How much you withdraw each year, how your investments are allocated, how much cushion you build for the unexpected. Planning short for a long life is one of the quietest, most common ways good savers still run into trouble. Let me show you what that actually looks like with numbers, because this is where the difference stops being abstract. Picture two couples. I'll call them Tom and Carol and Ray and Susan. Both retire at 65. Both have exactly $400,000 saved. Both spend the same $30,000 a year from savings, on top of Social Security. Same starting point, same spending. The only difference between them is which age they planned around. Tom and Carol built their plan assuming they'd need their money for about 13 years, to age 78, roughly matching what they'd heard was average life expectancy. Using a standard withdrawal approach, their plan looked comfortably fine for that stretch. Their advisor even told them their numbers worked. Ray and Susan, on the other hand, built their plan assuming they'd need their money to last to age 95 to 30 years. Same $400,000. Same $30,000 annual withdrawal. Here's what happened in real life. Carol lived to 91. Not unusual, women in particular are increasingly living well into their 90s. But their plan was built for 78. By the time she reached her mid-80s, the money that was supposed to last a lifetime had run out years earlier, and the family had to step in. Ray and Susan, planning for the longer horizon from day one, made smaller adjustments early. A slightly more conservative annual withdrawal, a bit more allocated toward growth to keep pace with a longer timeline, one extra part-time, working year before fully retiring. Small changes, but at 88, their plan is still fully intact, with room to spare. Same starting savings, same spending. The only variable was which number they planned around, and it made the difference between running out and having enough. This is exactly why the exercise at the start of this section matters so much. It's not about predicting your exact lifespan. Nobody can do that. It's about removing the cost of guessing wrong in the direction that actually hurts you. Planning for 95 and living to 80 costs you very little. Maybe a slightly smaller vacation budget along the way. Planning for 78 and living to 95 can cost you everything. There's a second variable hiding inside, how long your money needs to last. And it's just as important as the number of years. how evenly you spend across those years. Most people picture retirement spending as a flat line, the same amount, year after year, for 20 or 30 years straight. In reality, spending usually moves in a shape more like a wave. The first several years of retirement, while you're healthiest, most mobile, and most eager to travel and do things, tend to be the highest spending years. Spending then often eases in the middle years, before rising again later in life as healthcare and support needs increase. Let me show you what ignoring that shape can cost, using a couple I'll call Janet and Michael. They retire at 65 with $500,000 saved, and they plan to spend evenly, $28,000 a year, every year, adjusted only for inflation, all the way to a planned age of 90. For the first 8 years, that flat number feels almost restrictive. They're active, healthy, and want to travel while they still comfortably can, but their plan doesn't flex for that. They either stick to the number and feel unnecessarily limited during the years they're most able to enjoy retirement, or they overspend against the plan and quietly create a gap they'll need to close later. Now compare that to a plan that intentionally shapes spending around 3 stages financial planners sometimes call the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. Janet and Michael could instead budget $34,000 a year for their first 10 years, covering travel and the activities they most want while they're most able to do them, then ease down to $24,000 a year in their next 10, when the pace of life naturally slows and spending on travel and activities drops on its own. In their final stretch, spending often rises again, but this time toward healthcare and support rather than adventure, which is exactly the fund we'll talk about building in a future video this week. Run the math, and this reshaped plan can cover the exact same total spending over 30 years as the flat version. It's not about spending more overall, it's about spending it in the shape your life will actually take, instead of a flat line that fights against every stage of it. The takeaway isn't that you need a complicated spreadsheet for this. It's that when you stress test your plan for a longer life, also ask whether your spending plan matches the shape of your life, not just its length. A flat number is a reasonable starting estimate. A shaped plan is usually a truer one. Let's talk about why those extra 10 or 15 years matter so much financially. Inflation compounds. Something that costs $100 today might cost close to $200 in 20 years, depending on how prices rise. A retirement plan built for 12 years barely feels this. A retirement plan that needs to stretch 30 years feels it enormously. Healthcare costs rise the same way, and they tend to rise fastest in the later years of life, exactly when a shorter plan assumes you'll need less, not more. And there's something else a longer timeline reveals. The risk of needing help from family, financially or otherwise, grows the longer your money is stretched thin. Nobody wants that conversation. Planning for a long life is how you avoid needing to have it. So here's what I want you to actually do with this information. First, take your current retirement plan, whatever exists of it, and ask, what age does this actually assume I'll live to? If you're not sure, that's the first problem to fix. Second, rerun your numbers assuming you live to 90 or 95, not 78 or 80. If your plan holds up comfortably, that's real peace of mind, not guessed peace of mind. Third, build in a buffer specifically for the later years, a separate reserve for the version of you at 85 or 90 who may need more support, not less. Fourth, talk to a financial advisor specifically about longevity risk. This is a real, named category in financial planning, and a good advisor will know how to stress test your plan against it. None of this requires panic. It requires one honest recalculation, and then letting that number quietly guide the decisions ahead of you. Here's what I want you to walk away with today. A long life is not a problem to be solved. It's a gift, arguably the greatest one available to you. The only real risk is planning as if it isn't coming. You've spent your whole life planning for other people's futures, your children's, your family's. Take a little time this week to plan for the fullest possible version of your own. If this gave you a new way of thinking about your own timeline, subscribe. Next, we're going deep into the retirement expense almost nobody plans for. And if someone in your life is planning their retirement around just a few years of savings, send them this video. It might be the gentlest wake-up call they ever get. I'll see you in the next one.